song up. I'm trying to talk to him, but he can't. Huh? Again?
All right, live from Mad Hatter Dispensary. That's right, Mad Hatter Dispensary in Avenel.
Are
Live.
they
Can you
open
guys hear
yet?
me okay? No, a couple more weeks. They'll be open in like 2-3 weeks.
Okay. Is he going to do like a soft opening, or is he just going to open?
I think they're just going to open, and it's going to be insane.
Okay.
It's going to be absolutely crazy here. This place is huge. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I know. I saw from the pictures you had, I guess last week.
Let's see. I have another view here of the room. Do that. Can we see it? Yes.
No.
How about now?
Yeah. Nice.
That's the window into the dispensary.
What is that?
That window goes into the dispensary. People are going to be buying weed on the other side of this window.
Oh, okay.
We're behind the counter. Like I can stick my head out and tell people to come in.
And wave.
And hey, what are you buying? Come here. Get over here.
How would you get into the dispensary from there? Is there a doorway directly in? You got to walk around?
There's a door here,
and
there's a door over there. So I have two entrances. The main entrance is going to be that way.
And where's the door that you got?
Go ahead, Jim.
I was just say he's got to prop open the door if he wants to smoke while he's there now.
Yes.
So, do you keep your equipment there?
No, not yet. I don't have enough stuff here yet. I have to keep bringing it around back and forth.
Okay.
Not much. I have all my sound equipment here. I just have to bring my mixer, and that's pretty much it now. My mixer and the camera. I'm good. Yeah, this is great. I'm excited.
So this is your first Thursday podcast from the dispensary?
Let's see. Is this the first one? I did one here, right? What was that?
Yeah, you did. You did one.
You did one.
We had the guys that owned the dispensary.
That's right. Cannabis Patient Awareness Day was here.
Yeah.
That was that.
That's what that was.
So did you get the bugs worked out that you found on that day?
Yeah. I think we're good, man. I'm really excited. So, I work at Liquid on the weekends, and I volunteer. So this month they take movies, and they show them, and they break down the spiritual truths inside movies. And it's a really cool thing. So this week it's really cool because one of the women in the church, her name is Joy Soprano. She's an actress, and they have a series. She has a series on Apple TV called Best Foot Forward, and it's a kid who's like 12 years old with a missing leg, and it talks about his life and what he's going through, and then and it's a real disability. They use real people with real disabilities in this. The writer director also has disabilities. So when he was writing it, he's like speaking to himself as a child, and when he's writing these scripts, it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to start checking out Best Foot Forward.
How does it leave you feeling? Hopeful, more aware of bad shit, or what?
Oh no, hopeful, and it's very uplifting. Very uplifting.
Oh,
and
good. Well, good.
Family stuff. He plays soccer. I mean, he has a prosthetic leg, and he plays soccer, and he's very good at it. Plays
that's
baseball.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
So it's kind of
Yeah, it's a rough game though. Soccer is not. It's a contact sport, so I mean that comes with some potential.
Yeah,
you're running from different directions for the same ball. You both,
And it talks
Oh,
about
yeah,
inclusion, a lot about inclusion, which I love the inclusion aspect of it. And
I'll give it a look. That's why I asked, how's it leave you feeling? I'm
yeah,
the guy.
I
I'm the
haven't seen it.
guy.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it now. They did an interview with her. See, on Thursday they do gospel hour, so it's a run through of what they're going to do Sunday. So we run the cameras, we run everything like a show, and it's just a rehearsal, and then they record it. So it was good to just sit in on that because I got to sit in at the afterwards. The pastor actually talks to us and asks us how can I improve my message? And I said, there's one word you should use, one phrase. It's called neurodiversity. I never heard of neurodiversity before, but until a couple of years ago. But it's a thing. It's inclusive because people are differently abled. They're not disabled. They're differently abled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great way to create awareness about those issues. I love it. And I love that Joy Soprano, who I've watched at church for years. She's on the worship team. She sings. She's actually a movie star. I was like, I didn't know that. She has an IMDb page and everything. I'm like, whoa. You can look her up. Joy Soprano, Suprano. It's like, wow, Joy, you're famous.
I think being from Jersey, we all know how to spell that name.
You can change a letter.
It's spelt with a U.
Yeah, sure it is. if that's how she writes it down, that's how it's spelled.
And the kid is from Jersey. The kid is from like Mendham or something. So the Joy and the kid, whose mother and son in the series, they're both from Jersey. And they both flew out to California to make this thing, and it's pretty wild.
So this is a church you go to every Sunday?
Yeah, I go to this church, and it's a very technologically advanced church. I work on the switching board, the video switcher.
So is it like a non-denominational?
Non-denominational. You can be a Jedi Knight and go there, and they're good with it. You could be a
What's it called?
Liquid Church. Just like my hat. Oh well, I have the wrong camera on.
That's a hell of a name. I don't know what it means, but it sounds nice. Can't live without liquid.
That's right. Yes.
And everything is kind of liquid. You think it's solid. You think it's there. The illusion. It's all liquid.
Well, there's 3 states of matter, right? Solid, liquid, and gas, right?
Right.
Well, what's a gel? What is gel?
Well, there is. That's that's funny. Gel, it has a classification, and I remember that because I didn't study. I guess it was for chemistry. It was for chemistry class when I was in 10th grade, and that was the one you would remember. Like it was gel, and they used toothpaste as an example, and it does have a name. So it's sort of like I got snagged being asked that. And he could absolutely tell I didn't read it. Guilty. What can I say? So the guy behind me, Richard Lopez, knew what it was and explained. Now, Richard Lopez went on to be the dentist that my stepdad used for his whole life. I mean, it's like, yeah, he's the guy that we're turning into a dentist, and I didn't study and I became a carpenter. Here's a surprise.
But it does, yeah. It colloid
does.
in a more substance than a colloid is, but it's considered a colloid.
Okay.
There you go.
A colloid with substance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, could be a church of that too. Kind of like your church.
Colloid.
And the other can be built on a rock. I mean, solid as can be.
Well, what's the word for when the rain hits the pavement? That smell that comes off the pavement. There's a word for it, right? Isn't it Petra something? Petra.
Here, let me.
There's a special word for when it starts to rain, and the rain hits the concrete. Because I'm from Bayonne.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they coined a word for it.
Word.
It's Petra something, and it means stone that is with water from the gods or something, or something from some crazy name. Petra something.
I'll tell you in a second. Wait.
I'm sure it'll pop up.
Oh.
It's a smell that I remember. It brings me back to my childhood.
Yeah, petrichor.
Petrichor.
It's a Greek It's from ancient Greek mythology. It was the liquid that flowed in the veins of the gods. The
Okay.
smell of rain on hot earth or pavement. So it's from stone and rock, Petra.
Brings me right back to my childhood, that smell.
Boy, you're a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, you hide it well too.
He's going to ask permission for his First Amendment rights. I'm not going to let you live that down, you know.
No, I have to, because there's a whole point
No,
to
you
it.
don't have to. But
Yes, I
me
do.
and Jim are not going to talk to you.
I have to. I have to set up a ramp.
We're
I
going
have
to
a whole process.
me, you, and Jim are having a private meeting on this.
You don't understand. You guys don't understand video. I
Yes,
need to set
we
up a
do.
ramp. I have to set a ramp up. You don't understand. I'm setting a police station ramp up.
Yeah, and so you feel the need to ask for permission to do what you have to do?
No, but I just want to set a ramp up and take a video, setting a ramp up to go ask a silly question.
Just do it.
Well,
So
yeah,
why do you have to ask?
No, I love it.
No,
If
I
you
want
do
to ask
it-
a silly question, though, and get a stupid answer and have them look at me stupid. Like, that's a dumb question. You know you have the First Amendment right. I'm like, oh.
No, they're not going to say that to you. They're going to think you're just dumb, and they're going to give you whatever answer they want.
Step by step, let me understand. You're going to want to set up a ramp. Is that going to take healthy body Mikey or somebody?
Yes.
Okay, is that who you're going to go with? Just Mike? Anybody else?
Probably.
Who's going to film it?
Maybe Steve. Well, both of us, and maybe.
Well, you need somebody to film whatever you do.
Yes, I'll have a GoPro on my head.
Yeah,
and I'll have a hand camera. Someone else will have a hand camera.
And you need a ramp to get in, and they don't have one.
No, they don't.
And
they don't
you've already approached them with this. This is not going to surprise them.
No,
they know you.
They know.
And you're going to come now to deal with that. You're saying you just going to go, and let's get this bitch set up. You know, and you start doing it, and they're going to go, oh look, he's back setting up a ramp, and somehow there's going to be then the interaction that you're after, but. Up until that point, I'm with you, man. How do you see it going?
I'm going to get inside. I'm going to ask permission, and they're going to say,
Why do you have to ask permission?
No, but get inside. Yeah, why are you going to get inside for what? They'll come out to you. You start setting up the ramp.
No, they won't.
Don't go in.
Well, then,
by them.
We've done it. We've done it. They didn't come out. They don't know we're out there. There's no bell.
Lefty, then set it up and go up it and say hi. Or whatever you're going to do. It's like what can happen is they will become aware and there'll be an interaction. And you have the right to do that. Now they can say you'll have to take this down. And at that point you can go, okay, and then work it out. You can do that. And they're going to look like shit. Just for that, you got this upper high road at that point. Now, how far you want to fall from that upper high road is the question.
Well, after I get my permission, I come back with the rat. It's a 2-step process.
The rat.
The ramp comes first, and then the rat comes out. Then the rat. And I'm going to tell them the rat.
It comes out. It sidesteps out like. You do know these things don't shuffle about on their own. What is this, like a miniature Ghostbusters thing? Don't think of a rat, you know. Okay, I thought about a little rat and he's 8 feet, you know. He ain't a
We have a little rat we want to set up.
Yeah. And where's the connection between a rat and they don't?
Yeah, what does the rat have to do with anything? The rat,
because they don't have a wheelchair ramp. They don't have a wheelchair ramp.
Well, that makes them a lot of things, but it's like no offense to rats, you know.
Hey, it's not like it was an inflatable pig.
No, it's all about how it's going to be perceived by the public. It's not about anything other than that. So basically, I'd like to try to help you see the possibilities so that we can say, I told you so, or whatever. And you know what I like about this is you're the kind of guy that'll listen. I don't have a formulation yet. Actually, I love it to this point. You know, I'm surprised I got this far.
I'm going to pick up Jim, and Jim and I are going to sit across the street and we're going to watch. Right?
Well, you can film it for me.
Okay.
Where is this?
South Amboy Police Station.
South Amboy. Where's that? Like Perth Amboy.
Next to
Perth Amboy.
Woodbridge.
What
Woodbridge.
exit off the parkway?
Everything is Woodbridge.
123.
Exit 120 something.
Oh, right over the bridge then.
123.
It's right over. How far over the bridge? I'm
Not
on
far.
the park. I'm on the parkway. I'm on the Driscoll Bridge or whatever they call it now. How far is it when I get on the other side? I mean, I know that pretty well. And then
5
when
minutes.
Did they change the name of that bridge?
well, okay,
5
I know which way is it from there. It has nothing to do with Route 18, does it? Or
No. It's 5 minutes off the bridge. It's 5 minutes from there.
Okay.
well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If I was.
So are you going to get the media to show up though, or is that our job to do?
I guess we could. I'm basically testing the rat out for Trenton and for other things. So I need to test it out somewhere. So I'm going to test it out in South Amboy.
I got a
It's
backyard.
the rat. They've
I got-
seen the rat. They've used the rat. The PBA has used the rat when they've done things for union activity.
I have
Rat
to
is
test it
not
out.
new.
I'm putting it on wheels. I'm building a platform and I'm putting it on wheels so I can pull it with my wheelchair. And then they don't need a permit because I'll be moving. I'll be constantly moving and they can't stop me. I'll have a 10-foot rat in tow and they can't stop me.
Okay, I never thought of that. That's actually
Right.
interesting. And I always, even if on the surface, I'm thinking, I have learned that I've come across some ideas. It's like, wow, that would actually. So it's not even humoring you. I'm quite curious what that would look like. I mean, that would be the draw.
So what's the rat going to be on?
It's going to be on a dolly on a piece of plywood, and it has a compressor. So I have a battery that's going to go with the compressor.
What's the terrain it's on? A bumpy sidewalk, a pavement of some kind? What?
Yeah, bumpy sidewalk. Yeah.
Is the rat going to have some cheese?
Yeah, well, that will take a test run.
It's a good test run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to put a big block of cheese though on there?
Whatever works. I will do whatever you guys think is the best thing to create attention.
I would say it needs a sign of some form. I mean, if you're going to do something, you have to have a sign making a connection.
Yes, the wheelchair too. I can't. I have to have wheelchair signs as well.
I don't know your rat, but I think it would probably.
His name is Mr. Rat.
It would probably be okay to attach whatever kind of sign you need to it. Now, I can be of help in supplying a correct sign with a correct message. Right now, you're kind of steering it over to the spectacle of you can't stop me from moving, and which is interesting because in New Brunswick, when I went to picket with Frank Pallone way long ago, and there's when Cheryl was around, easily, it was 2000. Right away, they descended on me, and I had to get a supervisor out because they told me of their law for stationary picket, and I said, I'm not stationary. Now, at that time, I was kind of woggling like I had to pee or something, but I was moving about an inch with each foot. And I said, I'm on a very slow, I'm in motion, and I'm moving, and I'm not going to buttonhole anybody. If they ask to talk to me while I'm walking by,
They do that.
Yeah. And got a supervisor came out, and I ran that by him. And it was like he had admiration for it. He's like, all right, just don't buttonhole people coming by. If they want to talk to you, they'll talk to you. They can see what your sign says.
I think the cops are going to think that the rat's funny. They're gonna think that's pretty funny. But you have to have something catchy on it.
Yes.
It's got to have a catchy.
Because do you have a picture of this rat? I mean, from a catalog.
I have pictures. I have pictures of you.
I've seen the larger rat, but it was.
They're all the same.
Seemed like well worn. Now, when you say this is the Union rat, did you buy it from the Union? Did you borrow it?
I bought
it. Sativa Crossbow.
You bought it from who?
I'm buying it from AliExpress.
Okay, so it's not actually the Union's rat. You're buying a rat.
It's the rat the Union uses.
It's pretty impressive. 10 feet, 2/3 of that's going to be pretty impressive. If you can get now foot clearance and no branches and stuff, I mean, if there's an older Earth, I guess you could actually look at that, right? Yeah, that's not going. I'm trying to picture your. I want to see your guy next to that.
It's, you know what? It's not as big as it looks. It tells you.
I want to say reserve the right to condone it, otherwise you're man. He stays a rat.
Cody.
Yay!
Not too bad, but I work night shift at the hospital, 7 days off. The next 7 days, I'm feeling pretty good, but a little bit tired. Yeah, it's just the way it
You
works.
give yourself a when I worked at university hospital, we used, you know.
Just another example of that.
Yeah.
It depends on which day you catch me. Whether
Yeah.
So Cody, you're
So what hospital are you in now?
I work at Children's Hospital in Southern California.
Okay.
What was that? You were asking a question, Lefty.
the kids need the most as far as cannabis.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be clear, I work in a pediatric emergency department, and so, you know, the typical medicine hasn't really adopted a whole lot of medical applications for cannabis. I see plenty of patients that I believe could benefit from them, but you know, in the hospital, I tend to see the negatives of cannabis than I see the positives, and certainly that's the general consensus. But I certainly see some negatives and a few positives here and there as well.
How is the staff about it to you? Like, and I'm not talking about like, you know, the normal staff person like I would be, like the administrative staff.
Yeah, it's a good question. They're a bit hands off, but to be clear, I went back and got my master's degree in medical cannabis science and therapeutics from University of Maryland. And my employer did pay for that degree, and so I can't be too knee jerky about it. The average staff has come around to the green side. The average Californian is pretty comfortable with marijuana at this point, and so I think that part's pretty good. As far as admin and you know, like kind of the stigma, change is afoot. But we have not yet made that breakthrough progress. But in California, I don't know if y'all know, we have Ryan's Law.
Ryan's Law, yes.
And they expanded Ryan's Law to include everyone over the age of 65. So the long and short of it is, if you're in an institution, which means a hospital, which means a long-term care facility, it doesn't mean a psych facility or an emergency department, but kind of setting that aside, you have not only the choice, but the right to use a medical cannabis product whilst at that institution in California. Wow. If A, you have a life-threatening condition, and B, now, if you're over the age of 65. Mm-hmm. And so if you're over 65, you're actually allowed to use medical cannabis products, non-inhalation, in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. There's a different variety of Ryan's Law in some of the states, you know, especially down south, mm-hmm. that we've seen. You of course they twist it to, whatever their laws are. But, Ken Sobel and Heather, were pretty much into doing the whole Ryan's Law thing. So,
Yep, absolutely.
I know it pretty well, and it's a pretty cool thing. Up here, I'm in Northeast Jersey. I'm by the city. So basically everybody just kind of turns their head if somebody brings in something, an inpatient. Nobody says anything. They just kind of,
Yeah,
pretend.
well, let's look the other way. Ideally, we'd get healthcare to a point where we're integrating, not ignoring, and that's where we need to go. But I think Ryan's Law is a reflection of that is the direction we're moving in a slow, aimless fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll happen.
Yep, change is slow.
Well, that's a lot
You're
better.
not kidding, it's slow.
That's a lot better than a lot of people in New Jersey are right now, and a lot of other states besides New Jersey. But when it's people it's kind of heartbreaking how their care takes a hit if they have to be in a rehabilitation facility, of all things, which is where you may need it the most, especially if it's physical rehabilitation. It's incredibly useful. So what you're saying is, as far as orally consuming it, what being integrated is really sounds good to me here in New Jersey. And it's going to be interesting because it's always nice. The wonderful part about having 50 states that do things differently, that we can very, very easily point to this as a model that would just as easily work in New Jersey. And what hurdles do we need to jump over before we even catch up to that? But it's also the carrot that gets people ready to go a little more long term with this, because we have something. So I'm glad for everything that you're saying, because it's going to help out here. There's no measure of how much and how long it will take, but we can make sure it's going to help out.
I agree. And I think it's going to happen. I think it's going that direction. And time after time, especially when it comes to cannabis legislation, you're seeing California, not lead the way, but to jump in the pool first, right? To get in there. And I think another exciting thing that we saw just in the last year is they wrote a new law and put it on the books where it's kind of twofold. It protects people from discrimination of using marijuana while not at work. So you're not allowed to discriminate for using with any drug test, except in the case of an injury, and pre-employment. But even pre-employment, they have reworded so that you cannot go looking for inactive metabolites, which is the metabolite found in the urine that lingers for 30 days. Yeah. So they're shifting it to active metabolites, in psychoactive, impairing, THC and 11-hydroxy THC, which now shrinks the detection window to a far more reasonable something like 3 to 5 days instead of 30 days for any pre-employment screening that isn't like FBI background check or driving a big truck. There's a couple exceptions, but on the whole, tremendous progress in California regarding pre-employment screening in the last year.
Yeah. We have it with the police up here. They're pretty much riding the train of no pre-employment screening. And in fact, in Jersey City, am I right, guys? Jersey City, the cops back and forth, they're like, filing lawsuits against the people.
Yeah, well, it was about being able to use it off duty.
Right.
And Mayor Fulop caused quite the
uproar.
Over it. I'm not sure how it worked out. It started to work out favorably.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It still is, but they still keep having to. I think I just read that the other day that once again they had to go up against him about it.
Yeah, it's not over. I didn't think.
Yeah,
I don't think it's something we can actually point to yet, but that a lot of the time when we were getting our medical cannabis law passed, originally California was like, okay, now we have finally a model to look at in 96. I mean, it's not an unrealistic concept. Yet it was just California. Everybody knows how progressive California is.
For better or worse.
Yeah. And then with when Colorado, although I don't know the exact order of how it went, but it was at least within a couple of years, there was a few states in Washington, Oregon. I kind of
Washington,
forget.
Oregon,
Yeah,
Colorado.
basically, yeah, right on. Yeah, it was like 4 by
Yeah.
98 or 2000 or by then, and that's when it got really kind of interesting. Except here, the eventuality became when we got a law passed. Governor Christie said we don't want to be like the wild west of California or Colorado. Kept saying that. So it was sort of like once there was other states, but even when California was the only game in town, it was sort of like the sky wasn't falling, And then the first time I'd been to California, I had to take somebody to a dispensary, and you couldn't even tell there's a shoe store here and something else, and he's inside, and I'm not going in, and I'm out there. So I start looking around, and just like you would expect, people start looking up, and I'm looking up. What are you doing? And they're looking. I'm going, I don't see a sky falling. I'm from New Jersey, and my friend's in a dispensary, and we keep hearing we don't want to be like the Wild West of California and Colorado. Or, I don't see the sky falling. And it would be like the good humor you would get at that moment. It was sort of like, friendly hospitality and all. But this, especially what you're saying now, whether it's California, Colorado, or any one of the many, many other states, the fact remains their differences in their institutionalized care is not radically different. So what works in California would work reasonably the same in other states, most other states. So it's an instant solid connection to that, because that's like part of the holy grail here. That's the majority of people that can't get it. And the one thing ever happened here was our governor is he put me in touch with John O'Brien and me and 2 other people. I forget names, not going to flash them out. They did most of it. Contacted end of life care, hospice, all sorts. There's hundreds of them. And it boiled down to, no, you can't use it. You just can't. And right. They all had various reasons. And it was sort of like, so at the end, you can't. Oh my God, it was so demoralizing, but at least we're able to report back to him. And now you're telling me we got something to walk in with coming up. I appreciate that.
I am, and I can tell you that Jim and Heather and they're trying to get this adopted throughout the country, especially in the terminal ill condition. If you are on your deathbed, the fact that you could not use a plant to mitigate your symptoms,
right?
And it's not like modern medicine has a lot to offer you. They're offering you sedatives, go to sleep, numb yourself before you pass. And I don't know if you guys have done this. So this is my come to cannabis story. I discovered, tried cannabis for the first time when I was about 17, 18, just graduating high school. I got to college and developed an affinity for the plant. But what really, cemented sort of my future in cannabis was my girlfriend at the time. Her grandmother was dying of pancreatic cancer. She had tried marijuana back in the 50s, 60s, whatever, and was interested in trying it again. I happened to be at this time making some brownies with some regularity, and so we cooked up a cake and sent it home to Granny, who had been deteriorating. Pancreatic cancer is a horrible battle.
Horrible.
And she had been doing pretty poorly, and trending in that direction for days, needing a lot of morphine Ativan. She tried one slice of this cake in the afternoon when her granddaughter brought it to her, and she had just the best day. I mean, like happy-go-lucky, awake, alert, oriented, giggling, calling her children, calling her grandchildren. And this is a woman who, for the last month, had been pretty demoralized and was slow. A lot of morphine was taken, out of the life out of her sails. And she had one piece of cake that day and one piece of cake the next day, and one day later, she was gone. It didn't save her life, not even close.
Yeah,
But it provided her with a tool to die with dignity, to die with less pain, to take control or to connect emotionally. Like all of that is medicine.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's the key word that you used, it's the dignity part,
And not just medicine for the patient, medicine for the family and friends and loved ones left behind, because they have so much less baggage. And even for those last couple of days, the ease of burden from that. Yeah, it was, well, I wish I'd known sooner, but got to know in time. And that crucial time you never get to do over worked out. Yeah. So like that's a really good story.
Yeah, and it left an impression on me. I took that with me, and then it was 10 years later. My buddy calls me. Hey, I just saw a billboard on the highway in Baltimore. It says there's a master in weed degree, and I thought of you. And it was just I guess a bit serendipitous. That same day, my employer had announced a change in their policy where they were going to reimburse a significant amount rather than an insignificant amount of student debt or student loans. So I got my master's in medical cannabis science paid for by my employer in Southern California. So I think change is slow, but I'm living proof that it's happening, right? I'm a healthcare professional. I'm out of the green closet. I'm on the internet talking about it. And things are still trending in the right direction. Well,
if nothing else, times will arise in New Jersey as things progress to where when there are legislative committee hearings, example, it'd be nice to, if at very minimum, read something that you might have to say, because like it's not like waiting in line, as we get to speak. And if when it's appropriate, it's really nice to know somebody that could come up with like about a minute worth of something really worthwhile to hear with what's going on. That would be you. When it's something that would have to do with the problem we have here and addressing it.
Mm-hmm. And trying to, inform lawmakers. And this is happening everywhere in cannabis. It's like everybody thinks they have unique problems. Oh, and their market's going to be different. And New Jersey, prices are good. And that was just in Atlantic City for MJ Unpacked. And they're like, oh, no, margins, they're working right now. It's okay. I'm like, what are you guys smoking? The margins, it's coming. The compression is coming. It's coming for your head. It's coming for your margins. There's no avoiding it. And so, but for whatever reason, we've seen this state after state after state, whether it's lawmakers or business owners, kind of making the same decisions, and we're like trying to think there's going to be a different outcome. If we copy the California model and we turn it online in New Jersey, something different's going to happen. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I just know that we need to be thinking about novel.
You're right about New Jersey. We find a different way to go. Actually, being the 14th state to enact medical marijuana law. I tried to use marijuana when it was called marijuana, cannabis when it's called. It's a vague dividing line. So
one's a federal term, right? When it comes down to its legal definition, marijuana is a legal definition.
Yeah, but
I like cannabis.
Well, in New Jersey, marijuana is illegal. Cannabis is legal.
Right. So we like cannabis.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But in California, we have medical marijuana, right? Like if you it's
all the states do that have medical.
And that word, I think there's an interesting dialogue to be had around that as well. I know there's stigma. I'm certainly not going to deny that. But whether or not there's true racism involved in the word, or it was just used at a time where being derogatory towards minorities was more acceptable, and they just sort of correlate in that way. But I mean, right now, the federal government this is the word they're choosing to make us use, because hemp and marijuana, that's the distinguisher.
Yeah.
No.
And it's just based on one of the, it's so ridiculous. It's just based on the THC, right? You can group every cannabis plant with greater than 0.3% into marijuana. And apparently any drug you can imagine up and mix up in your garage as hemp, according to the poorly written definitions that exist right now.
We didn't go the way of 13 states that preceded us of having home grow in our law. We did, but it was yanked out in an assembly compromise ultimatum just to get it passed by powers unknown. Yet we're going to find out still.
Yeah,
15 years later,
midnight decision. How did this actually happen?
Oh,
that is unfortunate, though. I think it's okay. I'm a pediatric pharmacist. I see the worst of things in the world. I've seen negatives from cannabis. I've seen negatives from drugs. Yada yada yada. The fact that we're going to pretend that you can actually stop people from growing a plant and continue to live this lie every day as a country, including in the state of, New Jersey, as you just described, is crazy. That is delusional behavior and thought, especially if you consider what's happened since we did this. Since 1969, when we made all these plants illegal, there are more drugs, every one of them. There's more of everything in this country since the war on drugs started. Mm. But we're still playing this game.
Well, in New Jersey's law, we added lots of indications from the narrow list at first, and one of them was if you suffer from opiate abuse disorder, that's a reason enough to be referred into the program, which of course made it odd that we have this Reach New Jersey that you're getting off opiates. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can. Yet if you call the state with the scenarios for getting off, they never mentioned getting into the program where cannabis is an indication to get in. And of course, there's a lot of clinical evidence of the synergistic effect that, you'd get the same. And of course, having become a patient myself, when I found out myself, after a lifetime of smoking, how much better pain relief was from an opiate when it was really necessary. This much like 20% with some cannabis, and I was also happy from the cannabis and not so dragged down. So
the only thing's gonna make me happy is more opioids.
Amazing. So it's exactly what should be used, and
it's an amazing combination. Well, and opioid sparing effect. If we can even show a tiny opioid sparing effect, we're doing, we're all moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Look, even I want Game of Thrones. Anybody? I teach paramedics pharmacology on my side hustle, and whenever I teach them about opioids, I always open up with the milk of poppy because it's brought up multiple times in Game of Thrones, and the latex that's from the Papaver sinniferum, the opium poppy that grows in the Middle East, at least naturally in the Middle East, is why was I going to tell you this?
Good.
Oh, dang it. Jim, what were we just saying?
That's
I didn't
what
even
I was...
have a hit. What the hell?
No, I don't know. It is. I rub off on people sometimes in the wrong way. It's
Why was I talking about the poppy?
Because the poppy is not a flower.
Yeah, well, it has to do with the reduction in opiates using cannabis.
There we go. Bingo. So even in the Game of Thrones, when they talk about milk of poppy, they are very conservative. And this episode just happened to be, a few days ago. They're refusing it. They're taking the milk of poppy away because it was very easy to grab an opioid and take a large dose, even going back, thousands of years. Of course, it's fiction, but
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's a reflection of, hey, we need to use this sparingly. And I think one interesting thing is if you keep diving deeper into history, is that same time around 4,000 years ago, the first mythological demigod emperor of China, known as Shen Nung, who is considered the great farmer, who wrote down the first list of medicines that should be taken. There was 500 plants that were noted in what's called the Moderna Medica, the first Chinese pharmacopoeia. And in there, Shen Nung notes that cannabis is in the category of plants that should be taken every day. And the opium plant was not in that category. Now, of course, there's an argument to be made that we weren't rocking 28% THC
Yeah, true.
time. The sensimilla wasn't quite what it is today. But I think that's a really interesting observation.
Well, that just means less of a dosage to get the same effect.
True.
And when it occurred to people smoking, and the argument that it was too strong, the counter argument was always, well, you would have people smoke twice as much to get the same effect, which medically that's what they're going to do, because they're going to get the effect and that's when they're going to do it. So if they're going to smoke, to have something that was 3 times stronger, it would indicate they would need maybe 1/3 the amount, and that's very good. And especially if those are to have to use it with a little bit of opiates, it'd be such a little bit of each then.
Yeah. I think that's a bit of a textbook answer. I think what we do tend to see is people tend to consume a little bit more and they build a little more tolerance, and then they tend to consume a little more.
Yeah.
But again, there are a lot of things that people can be consuming in this world, and if this is the drug of choice or the product of choice you choose, I'm pretty in favor. Considering, on a global scale, tobacco's killing 8 million people annually. On a global scale, alcohol kills between 4 and 5 million people annually. And cannabis, we're talking about, less than handfuls.
What do you see in pediatrics that makes you think if there was just a way they could be using cannabis, it would be better? What would be an example without getting totally specific? But
yeah, well, I think, I work in pediatric hospitals. So you see a lot of, kids who are not well, kids who have chronic diseases. For the average healthy kid, I don't think they need any medical marijuana or whatever. Of course, there's, average healthy is increasingly rare, as well as, what is the definition there? But, if I look at my patient population, the ones that I believe that could benefit the most are people with complex seizure disorders, kids with cerebral palsy, developmental delay, autism spectrum disorder. These are some of the patient populations that I think if we could just get some social acceptance, that we could really help families and their parents. We're not going to cure any of these things I just described. Yeah.
No. But would it affect cerebral palsy tremors?
Well, that's cerebral palsy is a complicated sort of.
Yeah.
I just think it's sort of like an overall delay. The brain is.
But does it have what effect? Does it have a beneficial effect?
So the idea would be that you could try to sort of enhance connection. You could maybe enhance mood or energy levels, things of that nature. But when we're talking about medical cannabis, it's so much easier to try to identify the needs and the goals of the patient and then tailor the medicine to that, whether it's CBD or whether it's THC or even deviating. So it's hard to say oh yeah, cannabis will do X, Y, or Z. But whether it's a little bit of THC because they're having sleep issues. And so instead of adding another medicine for sleep, we could try THC instead. And again, the only concern that you'll hear raised by prohibitionists or even concerned physicians is there's evidence that there are neurodevelopmental changes when kids consume marijuana, right? This is the Sam or whatever is trying to horn. We got to be careful about the kids. But what's intriguing about that is, first of all, the kids that I'm talking about, they are not in the normal camp, right? These are extremely unique, complex medical patients. Get that out of here. If you're willing to give the child a benzodiazepine every day we know that those have established negative effects on the developing brain as well. Nobody bats an eye because it's a medicine, right? And so I think this is overstated. And one of the more annoying things on a more neurocognitively normal child, let's say, maybe they have attention deficit disorder, maybe they're struggling with anxiety or depression, all quite common nowadays. Even the idea that THC would be detrimental to their brain, which isn't necessarily shared by the people on this call, but is absolutely a sentiment shared amongst many healthcare professionals, is asinine. We know that THC has a negative effect on the developing brain. True, when smoked regularly as a kid. Like the data we have strongly suggests that the earlier you start, the more you consume, and which probably is associated then with more stressful family life and less support systems, and there's so many things that could be correlated. So sure, we see some negative changes when teenagers start smoking weed at an early age, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a tincture. I'm talking about integrating it into their daily morning routine so they can focus better at school. But you say marijuana in kids, you think, oh, the children's brains. But what about the children's brains? But THC does not have some sort of profound neurotoxicity, even in a child's brain. In fact, when we move it to kids, once we get them maintained, nobody seems to even know they've taken any cannabis products.
Well, but what about children's brains applies to not using it? If you don't use it,
right.
you're on a path downhill, not using it, worried about their brains, which their brains could be on a downhill course, and this could be what saves it. Almost like counterintuitive to them that you could actually use cannabis to get off opiates. Oh, well, people do. I'm not saying
not everyone will, but people have and people do regularly.
But cannabis definitely keeps people from needing the amount of opiates they need when they've run their course by the new tight restrictions in New Jersey a couple of years ago. They can only get so much, and then that drives them to another market where they can afford, and that's the whole thing that goes on.
That they're using more pesticides and is no longer regulated. The percentage of THC is listed.
They're saying, well, I'm not going to take what I ran out of, and they won't prescribe me. I can go on the street and I can get some heroin. I can get some.
Yeah, it's not even heroin now.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's, I know, fentanyl, because there's all this stuff happening, but it's all something that could have been mitigated, not necessarily stopping it, but stopping a lot of it at the source by allowing it to be used when they were using the medicine that they've now run out of. If they were using cannabis as an adjunct medicine, a synergistic medicine to lower the amount they needed, well, one, the amount they were allowed would have lasted longer. It wouldn't have run out 5 days, and then you got to do so much, and then you get another prescription after that. There's a lot of things, and a side point of other things that may be going on in the future. If this gets to be a Schedule 3 drug, which is a possibility, that if that happens, never mind. It's like, well, descheduling would be better, but I'll tell you what something Schedule 3 does is you get to say before you are going to say this person's pain is so bad he's going to need an opiate. He's never used opiates before. Well, shouldn't he be offered cannabis with his first use of opiates to keep it as low as possible? It's a Schedule 3 drug. So if you were going to do one then the other, wouldn't you start with, by definition, the safer drug? And Schedule 3, cannabis is now safer. So a big move to, before you use opiates, try cannabis. And the second you don't get relief, add a little opiate to your cannabis, not a little cannabis to your opiate. Only doing safety first is what about the patients?
I think you're right.
It offers an inroad to say that every drug you've ever taken, every drug everybody in your family's ever taken, by definition and of the DEA, is more dangerous than cannabis. Everything they're taking now, more dangerous. Cannabis, less dangerous. DEA, argue that with them. I'm just saying you start with the safest thing first, right? There. And then I can cite all that other crap that's been used against me, and I've been taking names for 30 years.
I think it's a good Trojan horse. I think you're spot on that we can do this. I would, obviously recognize that, starting cannabis first and then adding on the opioid is a better option than introducing cannabis as sort of the wild card while we already started down the opioid pony trail. I am really interested to see where this goes. I'm pro. Really, what I'd like to see is that I'm going to call an advisory group with Americans for Safe Access. And, they're really pitching Schedule 6. So I don't like I hate Schedule 1, right? Total bullshit. Schedule 2 is obviously inappropriate, would be incredibly burdensome, but there's a little pushback trying to push it from 3 back up into 2. Schedule 3 is reasonable. It does have some abuse potential, But when you think about anabolic steroids, the juice, right? It has reproductive harms. It destroys your bones. It does all this stuff. It's addictive. The anabolic steroids are. Oh, fun fact, y'all. It's not that the anabolic steroids might be addictive, and that addiction might be mediated through the endocannabinoid system. So the testosterone talks to the ECS, which leads to the dopamine, which is where they sort of get this addiction to testosterone. But kind of setting that aside, ketamine is the only other Schedule 3 that comes to mind. And look, ketamine's a safe drug, but like it certainly has more abuse potential and problems. Yeah. I mean, you can put someone to sleep with it, something you can't do with cannabis.
What is Schedule 6?
So ASA, Americans for Safe Access, is trying to create a space where no one could be criminalized for cannabis. Schedule 3 does not solve incarceration, possession, all this stuff. You don't have a script, dude. Oh, you're over your amount. You're going to go to jail because you're carrying the plant. So like there's a lot that is left to be desired.
Wow.
I really do feel like the government also knows they can bull us around on this. That we're kind of hopeless and desperate, and we really just want some acceptance. So I think they're going to push for 3. But ACE is proposing a 6. Look, we have all these problems. Schedule 3 doesn't necessarily solve problems that Schedule 3 creates. I'm a pharmacist. If you want any Schedule 3 substance in America, guess who you're coming to? And there's limits on how much you can get, how the doctor has to write the prescription, who has the licenses. Are you registered with the DEA now, Mr. Dispensary owner? So Schedule 3 creates a lot of issues. If we could get to a D schedule or I'm going to call it a pseudo D schedule, a Schedule 6, a new category that doesn't have criminal offenses.
Oh, okay. New category.
And that doesn't fit the criteria of the drug like the DEA and FDA are arguing about right now, then we could find a way to create a true medical model, support patients, keep people out of jail, hopefully, kind of make some change. So I really like this idea. I think she's doing Steph Scherer, the founder of ASA and the current CEO. Yeah. She's doing a really good job, and I think it's a great idea. But it's never been pitched, right? And that's why I actually literally had.
I got a question for you too. Maybe
please.
Yeah. Suppose it goes Schedule 3. Why can't the push for Schedule 6 start right after that? I mean, it won't happen before it. It's not going to happen with it. They don't become mutually exclusive. Well, we've already given you 3. Now you want more? No, we don't want more. Other people want more. You didn't satisfy everybody. There's a lot wrong. Everything you mentioned. So
I like the argument.
Would Schedule 3 hold up the possibility of Schedule 6? I don't see the connection but if we get Schedule 3, it's going to take even longer than ever to get 6. And then my worry is the DEA is going to say, you raise a very important point. We've had an 8-month review so far on Schedule 3. We got a little more work to do. But to be fair to your concerns, we're going to put a hold on our review for Schedule 3 while we catch up to that point with a review for Schedule 6. We'll get back to you. Okay, we know where that goes. Is this possible that holding up one for the other is going to come back against Schedule 3, making a delay? I find unconscionable if that's a possibility. And nobody can really guess, but to me, jumping Schedule 2, I'm so happy with the Schedule 3. That was my initial thought when I heard it. I go, yeah, they went right over. They did that, and my first impression was that's way easier to get. It's yes, it has use of medicine. You can't keep that, but all the benefits, and it's like, well, wait a second. Then Medicaid is federally subsidized, and it's a Schedule 1 drug with no medical use. So Medicaid and insurance doesn't, and banking doesn't like to use it because it's a Schedule 1 drug. Again, whoa, Schedule 3. A lot of that loosens up while going for better. It's the same path our law here. No, we didn't get the law we needed. We didn't have home grow. No, the guy that said we could get it later is in the way of it now. We're going for a whole thing. This is the way it works, but at least we got to this point to even risk Schedule 3 for a way longer shot, you know. It just doesn't. I'd like to hear a rationale from somebody that says, in my opinion, Schedule 3 is going to cause it to take an extra 3 years to become Schedule 6 or deschedule. I'd like to hear the argument. Not the argument, the rationale. I have nothing to argue. It's just I am worried for patients. I'm a one-issue guy. It's all about patients. And in Jersey, for me, it's all about patient. Homegrown, a bill we got stalled from even having information hearing for 3 years. So we're at that impasse. And then comes Schedule 3, giving us a leg up. You know, even the discussion of it, the progress of it as it happens helps doing what we got to do to get home growth. Home growth of Schedule 3 as opposed to home growth of a substance with no known medical use. Oh, it would solve so many problems in New Jersey, but you know, and it's happening.
It opens the door to problems, though, is what I would argue.
Oh, it does. No, it does.
What do you mean this is a Schedule 3 substance? You grew this yourself. You got a prescription for this? How much are you allowed to have?
Right.
How many?
Yeah.
So, like, just by
Well,
definition,
state law, though, state law in effect wouldn't be asking for any of that. I by state law, I get to go to a dispensary and have this as medicine. So now that it's Schedule 3, I'd like to have my Medicaid pay for it because I can't afford it without home growth.
listen, I've been advocating for this a long time. I'm a patients first person myself as well. I have my own bias and would prefer to go beyond Schedule 3, even though like Schedule 3 serves me up like a career on a platter. It's like, oh, here, Mr. Pharmacist, we've officially enlisted your help.
But that doesn't slow down Schedule 6, though, does it? Or does it?
Not necessarily. That's why I think your point
Okay.
is pretty assured there. You know, I can't imagine them not moving towards Schedule 3. There's a lot of political weight running right now. They've dangled this carrot in front of our community.
Yes,
and if they don't follow through,
I'm voting for them too, whoever they are. I'm just making a joke about, you know, well, they only did it for political, whatever, you know.
Yeah, for sure. There's also, you know,
do the right thing for the wrong reasons.
There's obviously like this line is generally across political lines, you know, but it gets muddy, right? You've got sort of the legal marijuana on the blue left, and you've got a little more conservative states' rights going on the right, but they also legalized hemp, which essentially put illicit drugs made in labs into every 18-year-old's, you know, purvey. You can now go buy psychedelic drugs and powerful cannabinoid derivatives, and you can buy it all at the gas station without even showing an ID. Yet in order to go purchase the plant that's been used as medicine for 6,000 years, have to go to a dispensary that's only allowed in certain places. I got to pay 28% tax on the shit. It's what are we doing?
Now that you put it that way.
I mean, honestly, this is the most regulated plant, but it's one of the safest.
I agree.
At least of the drugs, of the intoxicants, sure.
I'm going to agree with you right now.
Yeah. I agree twice today already.
Showing solidarity is the best I can do.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I like that we're in a progress time, but I do believe, I'm not saying it will hold it up. I do believe that moving all the way towards a decriminalized, whatever that looks like, a descheduled,
that'd be
in
great.
one swoop is a much cleaner, because you create a whole market and the issues associated with Schedule 3, or a shit ton of exceptions in each state. And then you're moving to Schedule 6 and you're going to have to tear it all down kind of deal, right? Like you're going to create all these issues, find solutions for these issues, and then go. I think it would be cleaner. Again, progress is progress, and I am pro Schedule 3. I'm not pro Schedule 2. Because one of the major reasons that companies are reaching and people are excited by the Schedule 3 proposal is because they're getting killed on 280E taxes. They can't write off their business expenses.
Right.
And Schedule 3 changes that, but Schedule 2 does not.
Yep.
And so that is a critical like threshold where I will accept nothing less than that. It also has to do with prescription length. If it was a Schedule 2, you have to go do a physical appointment every 28 to 30 days. You have to go see the doctor again and do another assessment and get a refill and a new script. Just like
sounds like our original state law.
Well, it's just like opioids, and it's just like, amphetamines or Adderall. So like it doesn't belong in that category. You can self-titrate safely. We're doing it right now. It's not a big deal. So I think that Schedule 3 gives us that 5-month window of refills and things. And that is a far less burdensome ask.
Yeah, while we work on Schedule 6, all the Schedule 3ers now were free to turn and go right to, hey, this isn't enough. This kind of sucks. We want Schedule 3. I mean, seriously, you got nothing. They're not going to say, oh, it sucks. We're taking it back to Schedule 1. You get to actually try it and say why it doesn't work. And you have, rather than the theory, which will prove to be true, all of the inadequacies will be revealed.
Right. The data.
Then I think the data further gets it all the way to that goalpost of Schedule 6. I'm a layman, but somehow I see that being the bounce down as opposed to the swan dive from Schedule 1, hoping I can land on 6.
Oh, I love this imagery.
We landed on a 10-month review. God damn it! No, I don't want to see that happen. But I just think that it can all be fixed. The worst part about getting a bill without any home grow. There's a lot of bad points, but it did make sense at that time in 2009. Let's get as many patients off the battlefield as we can. It made sense. I mean, the laws will help them, and then we'll build on. But I apply that same thing right now. We can get a lot of patients off the battlefield that they're on now that they can't afford it, and maybe they could get it through their insurance or whatever, or make it easy to pass other bills where PAAD, for pharmaceutical for the aging disabled, would be able to pay for it with other state programs, those bills that aren't being heard. Schedule 3 is going to move that stuff.
It is going to light a fire, I think.
Yeah, it would. So I see that happening, and that fire is what gets it all the way. And there is absolutely no reason to not pick up all the ammunition you have from really seriously people that this is like life and death for them. And then they can explain why Schedule 3 is not good enough. No, they're not risking going back. They're not going to have that taken away. They get to complain with facts and real patient stories, and we're not going to have that if we don't land at Schedule 3 first. So that's where I land. But
I think I might adopt that stance.
We overlap. We definitely overlap.
100%. We're overlap. We're in the same direction. It's just like whether we think one is going to be better, the better option.
Yeah, honestly, if it was me, I value your opinion more than mine on this, and I said it with all honesty. I really do,
But progress is
right?
progress, and I don't want to take away. I would not say no to Schedule 3. I would push back against the Schedule 2. Anything less than that is still progress. But ideally, like this is my ideal drug world. Okay, ideal drug policy. Plants are plants. You can grow any plant you want. Anything you want to grow in your personal property, do it. If whatever you do with that plant in your basement, that's on you. But if you turn that product around and you start selling it, you start distributing it. If you're manufacturing something, now you need to meet a different level of, you cannot grow coca in your backyard, extract the coca, and then sell that coca on the street. Could you gift it to your friend? Yeah, maybe. I'm a big fan of plants, and I really wish that we could just be more accepting of plants, like home grow. What do you mean I can't grow a plant inside my own home? Why? What? And only this plant? I can grow the ornamental Papaver sinniferum, the opium poppy. That's totally legal. Just don't extract it, dude.
Yeah. I got to learn to say that too.
Well, it's actually kind of, I use drugs all the time in the pharmacy that come from this plant. So you think of the opium poppy as making opium, right? But what's opium? Can you tell me what it is?
I can't.
Sue, you got an idea? Oh, are you
You're
muted,
muted.
maybe?
You're
Yeah,
muted.
you may be muted.
I don't. I mean, I know I could give you a not the smartest person in the room.
No, that's what I want. I want to hear what's opium.
Well, all it comes.
It's a derivative from the pop. From
Yeah,
the poppy,
it's been
blah blah
around.
blah. Big long name poppy.
Been around forever.
Yep.
You know, I see how it worked in the Deadwood series. You know.
Did you read
I
the
didn't watch
Opium Wars?
Deadwood.
No, that was the
Read the Opium Wars. That's a good
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, I love this topic.
I picture it with a hookah. We all have 6 feet of hose, and we're about 5 feet apart, and there's one big bowl of opium. Something I don't know.
Okay, perfect.
You know?
That's a good imagery, actually. So consumed.
Yeah, I'm the general dumbed down public. Actually, I serve a good purpose here. I do.
You're incredibly important.
Well, I'm incredibly uninformed, as most other people are. That's why I'm a great one to give an opinion. It's not you don't want you don't want an expert opinion, and it is all about perception. So one person's perception carries as much weight as another person's fact when you're legislatively changing something.
Bingo. You're absolutely right. And if people don't have the same information, then their perceptions are totally different.
That's right.
Right. That's why we say your perception is not necessarily my reality.
Right. It's just what you made up in your head. I mean, kind of, with the information you had.
Well, you know what I'm into doing now? If I had something I thought actually sounded like a saying, I tell you I don't know who said this, and I try it out on you and find out, you know.
If you had a quote that you were trying out.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I would do that because I don't know why I started doing parallel versions of that in the last year or so, just to say something without saying it or ask something without being the one asking it. I'm just a conduit. I don't know who started that meme. Here it is. Can you tell me if you know where it came from? And then,
I like that.
You know, then I put it out without conflict, saying I'm just wondering. You know,
I might have an opinion, but it's not this.
Well, between you, me, and the lamppost, I've heard this rumor, and every time I tell somebody I heard it, I say I heard it multiple times because the only time I hear it's when I talk about it. First time I said it, I just said it, and then later I said I heard it because I heard it when I said it. So technically, I'm not lying.
You're crafting the line.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So now there are people wondering if the reason we don't have home grow was pulled out in 2009 because the power broker behind the scenes, incredible, George Norcross, South Jersey power broker, the way we were in New Jersey, not elected, but in control of all this crap. But wait, it all connects back. I've connected the dots for what I've heard, you know, and basically just to get the conversation going. But it's just kind of a fun way to do because I'm not one to put my opinions out in the public domain and have to defend them. And I don't care to discuss any of this in the public domain on social media because I don't like playing tennis there and then going and actually trying to get something done. But this is like really good. I tell you, tonight started out perfect for me finding out that we have somebody of your stature that would be able to talk about getting how you want to get it into institutionalized care because we are having a big problem with that now, and it's a very well-known problem by a lot of people. So I don't have to let them be as ignorant as possible. When I hear some of the roadblocks, I'd like to run them by you. What do I say, Cody? You know, how do I answer this? Or would you care to give somebody a call and set them straight? You know, it's funny. You could help people get into your rowboat that way. Like, oh man, I'll help you out. Don't worry, I'm going to find a way to use you.
It's education. I mean, really, that's what you're talking about is in sharing information in a digestible, approachable way. And I love that. Lefty, I didn't want to ignore Michelle Burns and her I can't afford my medicine quote. I do want to talk about opium. We're going to get there. But I just want to address it. This is a problem. And tax is a problem. Depending on what state you're in, there are major issues that you'll run up against getting your doctor, getting your recommendation, getting a consistent supply of your medicine. I hear you. I'd also say that, some people consume a lot of medicine, and have developed quite the tolerance. We need to be offering people tools and education on how can they work with that?
I find no such thing to be true. I'm a patient. I had catastrophic foot injury. So the thing is, I was a patient. I just became a card holding patient, but it was really catastrophic. There's 12 operations, 59 hospital days over 4 stays. I'm lucky to have both feet. And being a patient opened my eyes, which were already wide open. I thought they were wide open. They might just as well have been closed. Wow, I'm quoting Procol Harum and Whiter Shaded Pale, perfectly fit.
I don't know.
Cody's too young for that.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
No, well, it's the lyrics are nice, I mean, what he witnessed, though my eyes were open, they might have just as well been closed.
Because you didn't basically.
Right. Yeah.
All three of us on here are patients. All three of us are medical patients.
Yeah, and I think it's not hard to realize that cannabis can be medicine for countless things, and there are many patients who benefit from it.
I'm in better shape than him. There. It's very hard to. I'm in better shape than him. But Lefty, I came across some good pictures of you in painful moments at the podcast, but I do have that one where he was laying on the ground, reaching up, changing some dials, because I was like probably sitting there, and somebody took a picture. It's like, what a trooper! And how long ago was that? It was like 8 years ago.
I have an artificial disc, L4, L5, a Fusion, L5S1, 2-level cervical, and I was on opiates for 10 years, speaking of opiates, and it was very hard getting off of those pills. It took me 10 months. 4 different times I tried to get off them, and the 4th time it took, and it was not easy. And I actually had this 2-level cervical fusion with 0 painkillers. I took just cannabis oil, cannabis suppositories, cannabis tinctures, edibles, you name it, and 0 opiates for a 2-level cervical fusion, which is I never thought I could do that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how helpful cannabis can be post-operatively for especially for somebody who's accustomed to using it as medicine. And once again, kind of supporting Jim's proposition that, like, hey, maybe we should see if this helps them before we give them the opioids, so then they don't need as many opioids ever.
Yeah, and they should try that with their first opioid. It's an adjunct medicine. They're not mutually exclusive. Yeah. They work together.
We do this with Tylenol. We specifically give you Tylenol alongside opioids because it augments the effects of the opioids and creates an opioid reducing effect. That's why Lortab is out there, or Oxy, what do we call it, Percocet, because together they work synergistically. I have to stop real quick and mention that Tylenol is mechanism unknown. We don't know how it works, but two of the proposed mechanisms are closely connected to the endocannabinoid system. And it has been postulated that Tylenol, its anti-fever effect, is secondary and mediated through the ECS, which is pretty fun.
And in the ERs, for a number of years, for patients that present with a peritonitis because they have they have a ruptured appendix. Mm-hmm. We've hung a liter bag with 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol, and it works. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
it does. The patients have said that. My own son told me that, and he's not somebody that's he's not a lightweight. So,
well, my whole years of medical cannabis advocacy and activism were watching the effect on somebody else, not me. It wasn't until after Cheryl died in 2003 that I broke both feet and they turned sideways and bottomed out. It was all, I'm not going to go into what got done, but a lot of crap got done. And it's like then living that what that did for me during the recovery period. And what it did was I did use opiates when I got back, but I was able to just use the cannabis in pretty short order, which left me okay with the fact that I was using a what do you call it, a portable toilet thing from the living room, and paddle fan and big TV, and tell Julie if she's coming back. Yeah, it was living 7 months of that and traveling, that open windows, that watching Cheryl, she could only move her head and shoulders at the end, leaning back, wheelchair, fast story. But the thing is that I thought I knew what it was like standing behind her, and when it was me, it was different. It was different being that person,
being the patient.
Yeah, and what it meant for me to do what I had to do. I mean, I'd be giving myself injections into the stomach area, the folds of the skin, not directly into my abdomen.
I know what you're injecting is anti-clot medicine.
Yeah, and I would make a smiley face, when I do it, because it would, I'd do the same area and I'd make a smiley.
Well, plus you were taking a selfie at the same time, so you had to smile.
Yeah, but when actually. It wasn't a selfie, but when a Hurricane Sandy hit, I was having infusions for vancomycin, because if 6 weeks worth of that didn't get rid of the infection, they were going to take the foot. So it was the last thing. I had however many days it was of that, and then the last time it came back, it's like, man, if it goes beyond that, and so what happened is I had to do the infusion myself by flashlight, because we had no electricity after the hurricane. And there I am, like, doing an infusion, and I missed a medicine day because it disrupted the supply. But I knew what it felt like, and I knew what made that okay was cannabis. What it did for me, my head, what it did for pain relief was great, but it made me, the pain, I could feel it, but it didn't hurt like it did when I didn't have it. I couldn't explain it to myself, but it was what got me through, and the things we would end up laughing at, and it was just like ridiculous what I had to go through. But I felt guilty because I'm getting better, and I'm not losing my foot, and I'm getting my life back. And a lot of people that I'm trying to help and see be helped, they're getting worse. They're trying not to get worse, and they're trying not to go downhill. While I knew I would get better one way or the other, but it stays with me, And I've become too empathetic for my own good at times, I think,
I don't know if there's such a thing. Well, no, there is such a thing, but I think it can be harnessed and
yeah. Well, that's what I do, And Sue helps keep me straight, and she's not a bobbing head doll. A good idea, Jim. So she definitely, let me know, and it's understandable, and it's fun when I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. It doesn't. It's not like, hey, I've been doing this a long time. No, the reason I got good at what I'm doing is because I soaked up every little bit I could for people who knew more than me, not figured otherwise. I run up against a lot of people that things that I now know they don't want to know anything about, because you're the hammer, Jim. You're the one that opened the doors. I know how to talk to people, and maybe you do. I don't know, but it doesn't mean that what I would have to say doesn't count. I would hope somebody would run with it where I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh well.
Cody, you talked about your first experience with cannabis.
Here it comes.
Is there a story behind that? Your first time you smoked weed?
Got a couple standard questions. Everybody
prepared.
Oh, this is your thing, Lefty.
Yeah, no, it's
your question. First of all, wait, I gotta tell you, Lefty, I love the way you sound on the radio. You definitely sound the sexiest of all of us. I don't know if it's how close your mouth is to the microphone. I'm trying it right now just to see.
Well, he's in a new studio environment.
I'm telling you,
actually.
Dude,
so
you are Howard Stern-esque right now.
There you go.
It's a new mic. I'm loving it.
Mike, I mean, you sound like the quality sounds like who are the guys? The two radio guys on iHeartRadio. They're all.
That's amazing. Opie and Anthony.
No, you have a radio voice now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you officially have a radio voice. I mean it. Like
really good.
It does.
Howard Stern vibes.
I was gonna. I was going to say something about that, but we were laughing too hard. But I wasn't going to tell you. You said something.
Like, I'm
about
over here
something that
trying to
sounded good.
imitate you. I'm
Yeah,
just
right.
trying to
You know, you can't do it.
what
You
you're
know?
doing.
We know.
You are. Oh, I felt that.
Oh, this is gonna be a fun studio. I can see that now.
Yeah.
He sees it.
So that question, what do you?
Yeah.
Were you 15 years old? You said
No, I was 17.
17. That's right.
17 years old, finishing up high school. I was dating a woman, and it must have been
Woman or a girl?
she was
There's
a
a
girl.
difference.
She was a girl, and I was a boy.
Okay.
We were kids,
I know that song.
and I was dating this girl. I can't remember. It was prom. It had to have been prom because it was at the end. What's this? It was the end of hockey season, so that's spring. There's no dance in spring other than prom, right?
Yeah, there's a spring dance, a cotillion.
It could have been like the Sadie Hawkins in the spring. Anyway, one or the other.
There you go.
We go out with the hockey team to Galen's house. Galen was one of our hockey players who lived out of town but was there, but he lived in the country, like way out. So we're at the party and everyone's drinking, and I obviously had no problem with drinking a little alcohol because that was no big deal, but marijuana was bad, right? Like that's what I had been told. So they're smoking around the fire and I'm offered, and I say no, and I'm a little upset or probably a little buzzed or whatever, and I go inside. And while I'm inside, I'm kind of just like mulling it over, and I run into Galen's father. And I talked to him about sort of my frustration. And we talked a little bit about alcohol, like why was I okay having a beer, but I was worried about smoking weed. And he said, just, trust your gut and do what you want. Like, don't do or not do something because of what other people said. Like, trust yourself. He said yes. I had a pretty decent time that night. The experience, I can remember it, but obviously not that well because I can't remember what the hell the date was. And overall it was positive, and it sort of just left me for a while, and I found it again in college and really kind of, grew in favor of it. But Galen's dad actually died that week. He was on a blood thinner. He had fell and hit his head and passed away like that actual week. So it was pretty wild in his own home, like in the bathroom that I was using before we had the conversation. And I didn't think about this till like years later, but yeah, that's actually how it went down. And look how it turned out, right? I went and got my doctorate in drugs and then my masterate in weed. And now I'm here talking to you guys, preaching, the cannabis gospel.
So you didn't have a motivational syndrome when you found this out?
I mean, look, I have spent some days less productive than I should be. And
sure,
I have used marijuana to distract me from those days. But you're right. Just because I've had some lazy days and wasted some time with Mary Jane does not mean that I'm, amotivational. I think stereotypes, lean towards a trend, but anyone can buck a trend if they have their mind set on it.
You can. And, if you don't need instant gratification or something to change by right then, with what you did, if you become okay with the body shots that add up, the ones where it looks like nothing got done, and again, where it looks like nothing got done, you can't think nothing got done because you didn't see it, and to know that is, what does it take? It takes showing up, standing around or sitting around. I make a sign, and then I don't generally walk around and stuff. It's usually, sometimes we're just sitting in front of the State House getting high with signs, and people see the signs, and we're doing a podcast, but it's not a tough gig, it really isn't. So like just doing the showing up part, and we'd hope to get better in New Jersey about doing that, and including patients, because having talked to Audrey earlier, Andrea, I mean, I'm thinking, talking to Andrea earlier, it's like we were both of the mind that, we got to be ready to have patience to when we do get an informational hearing finally. It will happen. But like any good advocate, you can't finally get the door open. You better be bringing something if it took time, you know? So like to be able to see how patients, when they finally get the one time to have their say, to go to Trenton and see the people who are in charge of their lives and get ready for their 2 to 3 minutes that they have to speak. What does it take to get them there? Who do they want to be? Yeah, it's going to be Patients Day when that finally happens, because that's where they get to testify, and their mere presence is what it takes, you know, and everybody against it and for institution or whatever, you know. You know, it'll be a homegrown hearing with patients there testifying, and it's nice that Andrea is excited about doing that and getting ready early, having a thing ready. So yeah, but all along, even with that, if we can't get it into institutions, you know, that's the holy grail. How many people could that benefit in New Jersey? Lefty, any idea? How many people, Sue? Throw it a guess. Thousands.
I mean,
There, that's
in
enough.
California,
We're a
everyone
pretty
over
populated
65.
state.
There's
Yeah,
certainly a lot of people in need
But
over the age of 65.
the model is no, not smoking it. We're not talking about smoking. We have a model to watch out for that involves the oral preparations being used in conjunction as an adjunct medicine under the care of physicians and personnel and clinicians. And then they're going to have information. Now, do we want it or not? That's all. I mean, if you're going to say we don't want it, you're sentencing this to be status quo for a while. What we need to know is that we will have legislators that may say, you know, I'd be interested to hear what Dr. Cody Peterson has to say.
I love it. And I can connect you with those people. The people who passed it are the Cannabis Nurses Network through Sue. It's a lawyer who lost his son. His son's name was Ryan in California. He sought to use medical cannabis at the end of his life, dying from cancer. He had to go all the way up to Oregon just to get access.
Man.
It was ridiculous. So his dad was a lawyer and knew politicians and decided to push this through. But I agree. If we could find a way to roll this out so that people can, you know, hospice, even hospice at home, like nurses can administer technically the cannabis medicine to someone who's dying who asked them to.
Right.
Hey, I'm only going to be here on this earth 5 more days. I've done all the hard work. The medicine's just next to me.
Well,
I just need you to give it to me.
One of the things, New Jersey got it right. We passed end of life care.
Right to die.
Yeah. So we did do that, and I was going to testify because I saw the importance of it. And I got lucky, and a lot of people don't, though. You know? And it's very close. It's a personal decision. Until we walk that road, we don't know what it's like. And in the end, you walk it alone. You should have that decision yourself. You know?
I agree.
So we got that, but the fact that once you get to where you can use it most, you're least likely to get it. And we have a friend who's under that problem in Pennsylvania, where they're trying to kick him out of a rehab because it was reported that he had some cannabis gummies, and gave some to a patient. They didn't find any in the room. To my knowledge, he did. You want to hear a funny story? You know why he didn't have any?
Because he ate them all?
He gave me two bags and somebody else 2 bags on a visit, and then it happened not real long after that. he had to run out, and he ran out offering one to somebody, but now he's living under threat of that and all. But my point is like, this is an edible. So that's Pennsylvania. It's just over the border, but he supports us over in this side.
I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, he supported the podcast.
I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
It was a good place to grow up, but you know, let's just say I don't mind visiting, but I wouldn't move back.
No, that's hillbilly LG.
I'm in small town Pennsylvania too, Western Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun. My family had immigrated here to New Jersey, and then around the time of the Revolutionary War, went to the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, where they basically all still live today.
Lefty's got that look. He's got a couple more questions.
Oh, he's got.
I'm looking at his face, and they're really innocuous, quirky sort of questions. Everybody gets them though. So, but I could see. I was looking. If you saw me looking in, I was.
He's
looking
like, where do I get? How do I get in here and slip this
Yeah.
question in?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lefty. You're on.
Dr. Cody, what is your favorite munchie food?
Oh, so in general, I struggle with the word favorite. Okay, I like so many things in the world.
Multiple. Name a couple.
My favorite healthy snack are grapes. My favorite unhealthy snack is ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, but I could keep going.
No, keep going. I'm listening. I'm all ears. I'm making me hungry.
Like particularly something about THC. I could just eat a bottomless amount of like anything that comes like with air in the bag. I don't quite understand it, but I believe I'm some sort of superhuman chip processing machine with enough edibles. I'm being hyperbolic, but also a little sincere. It's like for whatever reason, I can't stop with the salty snacks.
What about hot food?
Yeah.
Like something that would be served under a hot lamp, or
the really hot,
food.
the spicy hot Cheetos. The cheese.
No,
that's my favorite. My stated favorite. One of them.
Like a jalapeno flavor on those salty things that I just described. Oh hell yeah.
Yum.
There you
definitely go. Like now, taking that aside, like I love spicy. Like give me the kimchi, give me the so that's always there. Kind of.
Yes. Like a dinner, like a dinner food.
Oh, just like my favorite dinner food.
Yeah, how about that one?
Oh, that's interesting.
It's
I have
lasagna, right?
yeah, like I can't. You like again. I don't do favorites, so
You can't
too many foods in the world.
and do a favorite, Lefty. Come on.
Well, Farmer Tom was on the other day, and his favorite munchie food on the farm was whatever he was harvesting that month.
Like literally whatever in his is in.
But what did he mention? Grapes were in there.
Grapes, cranberries,
cherries were
cherry
coming
tomatoes.
I do love like a farm fresh grape. Like I know like everyone likes the seedless big grapes, but like actually when you get and you have like a seeded grape that they make wine from, there's something really enjoyable about the uniqueness of all the different parts of it. So I get that. Anything that I grow, I'm all about it. I'm at the community garden here in my SoCal HOA community, and I'm a cucumber off the vine kind of guy. That's the way I grew up in small town Pennsylvania.
Speaking of grow, and what's your take or your opinion on psilocybin?
I wanted to talk about other drugs anyway.
Let's
trying to get you guys talking about opium,
since that seems to be that's the closest other plant medicine.
Yeah, I think they're very similar, right? A medicine that has long been medicine in ancient cultures, particularly in the Americas, but psychedelic mushrooms are all over the world. We now know this. That has been stigmatized, sort of like shunned into this voodoo sort of magic, not real science and data. But it's a naturally occurring plant medicine. It's similar to THC in the fact that the dose to harm you is extraordinarily high, but the dose that can make you feel like you're gonna die is actually not that ridiculous, right? So there's a big safety window, but the therapeutic window is a little more narrow. You can overshoot and be very uncomfortable. I think they should be used with caution in individuals who are at risk of psychosis, schizophrenia, etc. I think it can exacerbate things like bipolar, but with appropriate thoughtful counseling and appropriate choice of agents, because it doesn't have to be mushrooms per se. Like ketamine can potentially be an option, or other medicines. That psychedelics offer a tremendous amount of hope, and a little bit different than cannabis, which tends to be a little more like of a myopic, almost kind of like what Jim described. It like lets him be with his pain. It kind of like, it's a little bit of an analgesic. Psilocybin makes you learn to change, or psychedelics in general, change the way you're thinking about your disease and change the nervous system response around it, as opposed to sort of numb or suppress, which is more what THC does. And that is not a diss on THC. It's not that one's better. It's that different medicines, different approaches, and they're going to work for different people at different times with different support systems. So I think there is incredible promise in psilocybin mushrooms, both large doses to deal with serious problems and trauma and death and loss, and then small doses to help us deal with daily stressors and mood and the, sort of the microdosing approach. So
what's a high dosage?
Up on it all.
Okay, what's a high dosage in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's just like cannabis plants, and they're breeding these fungi to be pretty incredible. 10, 15 years ago, 0.5% to 1% psilocin or psilocybin in the mushroom would be common. Now they have potency cups, right? Just like they had cannabis cups in the early medical days. In the mushroom market, we now have breeding competitions, and they're getting 4% or more in these fungi, right? So what used to be, it's tenfold, kind of like what we did with sensimilla and what we did with indoor lighting and what we did with nutrients and blah, blah, blah. So we're seeing that trend. In fact, what I'll say about the mushroom market is this thing, is queued up to follow cannabis, like to an absurd T, maybe at a different pace, maybe with some different challenges, but there's no barrier. It's a naturally occurring product. The safety window is big. It has a wide therapeutic indications, large doses, small doses, social doses, personal doses. There's this huge, complex, dynamic opportunity, and I would expect it to go that direction. The other thing I've noticed is people who were in cannabis and have left, maybe they exited well, maybe they exited not so well. It's more commonly the case, but some people timed it. They're now selling mushrooms. They're growing mushrooms. They're processing mushrooms into gummies. There's a whole market. You might not realize it, but you can probably just go down the street right now to your local head shop and buy a synthetic psychedelic drug. You can go buy 4-ACO DMT, which is a derivative of psilocybin, or a close synonym. This has all happened and is happening right now. And that's good and bad, right? It's going to come with all the good and the bad that came with the legacy. Everything that we saw happen with marijuana, it's going to happen again. It's happening again. That's my take.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just teaching. I like the opium wars, the history of opioids. I think that's how I got on the idea of opium. Opium is the milk, the latex from one specific poppy plant, right? So you can say poppies, but that's actually 1,000 different flowers. The Papaver somniferum, which is native to the Middle East, is the specific poppy. Now, it's easy for me to remember for two reasons. Somniference is like to induce sleep in Greek. Somniference, something like that. And like somnolence is where that word comes from, and that is, again, means like sleepy or tired. And then papaver is easy for me because we use papaverin in the hospital all the time, and it actually was first identified in this poppy plant, because the poppy plant is not just one thing. We think of it as opioid, drug, morphine, whatever, but opium is a lot of things, because it is the latex from a flower. Just like the cannabis flower, it doesn't create one thing. There's essential oils, there's other alkaloids in this case. And so there's not that much oils in this case. But the point is it's a mix of drugs. And what we actually do is we looked at that. And at first, we just used it as opium, the mix of drugs. But then in the 1850s, we started to figure out that these were water soluble and we could separate them out. And so we all of a sudden, we took opium and isolated the opiates, opiates, okay? And this is the appropriate term from an opioid extracted from the opium plant. Then we took the opiates like morphine, codeine, and isolated them and put them in medicines, right? And then we took drugs like thebaine or papaverin. We use papaverin in the hospital still today. These are all alkaloids common in this. We took thebaine, which has some undesirable side effects. And one of the reasons you can't do a lot of opium, you don't overdose on opium, because there's other stuff in opium that doesn't let you go so far. You'll get sick, you won't feel well, you'll pass out, like whatever, you won't OD. But when you take morphine out, or even more, take morphine out, manipulate it pharmaceutically into heroin. Yes, Bayer Pharmaceuticals invented heroin. The same year they invented aspirin from the willow bark, they invented heroin from the poppy flower, or the opium latex, whatever. The same company, Bayer Pharmaceuticals, they made heroin, and what happened is they now had a drug that you could overdose on, that the side effects didn't sort of create the ceiling. And then we saw deaths start to occur. It used to be an opium den was a place for people to be lazy and lay around all day. It wasn't like everyone was ODing in the corner in ancient opium dens, even though they were all over the Middle East and Asia. Even in San Francisco in the early 1900s.
Yeah, that was
more on drugs.
That was my image. You know, you asked me about it, and I mentioned I brought a hookah with a 6 foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was my image. That it wasn't anybody ever being rushed in and out. There wasn't anybody more high than anybody else. It seemed like it was all everybody at about the same level. And yeah, kind of lazy, slow conversations, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's probably much more like it was, or like almost more of like a psychedelic experience and like a distorted reality, as opposed to like euphoria approaching death kind of like overdose. So, okay. So we took opiates, morphine and codeine, and then we said, oh, look how they work on the opioid receptor. We figured it out, just like we did THC, the CB1 receptor. We actually figured all this out earlier than we did with cannabis. And so we looked at that and we're like, oh, well, what can we do here? What can we manipulate to like make it better? And so we got oxycodone, we got hydromorphone, we got fentanyl, we got carfentanil, we got sufentanil, and a bunch of other drugs that are now being made and moved into the market.
All for patient care.
Yeah. Opioids. Yeah. It's a drug class, but they're not from the opium plant. Those are opiates. Yeah. Okay. So opioids and opiates, both highly addicting and both abuse potential. But I'm of the mindset, personally, bring opium back. If like we need, if we need a safer drug, why not just like allow opium to be grown again and moved into supply? It's better than fentanyl. but it's like this is the plant stigma, right? It's like we're fine with synthetic drugs and synthetic psychedelics, but those mushrooms should not be growing, even though they showed up without you even putting them there.
So opium has an entourage effect.
Which drug?
Opium has an entourage effect,
and so do mushrooms. And there's a lot of speculation that their bioactive profile could contain things other than just psilocybin. That idea that you have a drug and inside of that plant there's one drug, it's like misinformation going all the way back to that opium. It's like, oh, we figured out what deals with the pain. Don't worry. We've pharmaceuticalized it and figured it out. But instead we created a bunch of issues. People would probably be using weed and opium and getting the same effects, and we wouldn't have the crisis that we do, the third wave of the crisis. All of them caused, maybe fourth, but the third wave of the crisis, all caused by man-made intervention. The fentanyl crisis that we're in today, and the fentanyl derivative crisis is really kind of where we're at going. Before that, it was oxycodone, semi-synthetic, pooled, like they take morphine from the poppy plant and thebaine, and they manipulate it into oxycodone, so it's a pharmaceutical. And before that, it was heroin, which again, I explained is a pharmaceutical product. Okay. There wasn't really a morphine crisis, though people definitely developed problems. But even when millions across the world are smoking opium, we don't have histories that suggest everyone was keeling over dead.
Right.
Good point.
Plants, like let's just like make plants legal and like allow that to just cut into the drug cartel profits.
Oh,
It's kind of like the in South America, right? The gardeners, the people that tend the gardens, you know, where they grow the cocoa plants, you know, they were all sucking on the leaves, you know, and
Right.
they started to wonder, well, how come they're so energetic? And then they figured it out, you
and
know.
happy.
Yeah.
You only make how much a day, and you still smile when you wake up and when you go to bed.
Come to work tomorrow.
Interesting.
You know?
What's your trick? They're like, oh, we just chew on this plant that our ancestors have chewed on for 10,000 years. And they're like, there must be a trick in that plant. Let me see what's in there and see if I can figure out how to.
Yeah, and maybe a way to help people and make some money.
Monetize that. This is trending, guys. Have you seen these de-coca product? So a couple fun facts about coca. I just love drugs, y'all. The coca plant is still being grown across the world. There's more cocaine in America and around the world than there ever has been. During the whole war on drugs, during Prohibition era, even during the Miami boom of the 80s, all that shit, there's more coke today than ever. Okay, and it shows up in sewage water, and we know this. It's in Europe, it's here.
The sharks. They just said the sharks were like, you know,
the sharks are doing blow now.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but what's happening is they're dumping cocaine into the ocean, trying to hide it during all of the enforcement, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, my point is the coca plant has this ancient use, right? But we figured out it was cocaine pretty early on, around the same time, and had a medical use for that, right? All of the local anesthetics. Have you ever had Novocaine at the dentist? No, you probably haven't, because Novocaine's not used anymore. Jim, maybe you're getting into the Novocaine era.
I had ether. I had ether to get my tonsils out.
Okay, we're getting into the Novocaine era for sure. But Novocaine,
I had it.
Novocaine has a lot of cardiac side effects, and it's hyperallergenic, and so it's not a very good drug. It doesn't last very long. It's not a good drug, but it's the Kleenex of local anesthetics. Yeah. It's the name. It's all Novocaine, but it's actually bupivacaine or ropivacaine or lidocaine with epinephrine. Anyway, my point of this story is all of those local anesthetics, lidocaine, ropivacaine, Novocaine, all come from one plant molecule, cocaine. They're all based on that structure. So anytime you've had a local anesthetic, you put a lidocaine patch, a lidocaine jelly, a Oragel for your teething in your baby, thank the coca plant, because it inspired the entire set of drugs.
Oh man,
this is wild, right?
I've become a smarter person tonight.
So, in the U.S., another fun coca fact: who's the number one importer of legal coca?
We are.
Come on, use it. No, like what we are. Like, do you want to tell me about a business? Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. But what do they do when they extract all that cocaine from the coca plant? What do they do with all that leftover? How do they destroy it?
My hunch is, so they don't tell us, but my hunch is they don't destroy it. They sell it to the pharmaceutical company, who then puts it into the pharmaceutical drug that exists in most hospitals around the country, or many hospitals, which is a 4% cocaine solution for rhinoplasty. Like when you go into the nose and you need to keep it from bleeding, you use cocaine.
Well, at least it doesn't get wasted.
We used to stock it in the ER.
Intended use, really.
Yeah, we used to stock it in the ER. We don't do that anymore.
In your tack liquid?
Yes.
Yeah, so we use now we use lidocaine, epinephrine, and tetracaine. Lidocaine and tetracaine instead of cocaine. But it used to be tetracaine, adrenaline, epinephrine, and cocaine. And so, but like they realized that this drug was getting, mishandled, or
Yeah.
where are you getting the
Everybody's
cocaine to
hearts
make
were
it?
going.
In pharmacy, they used to keep a tub. You'd buy a kilo. I'm not fucking exaggerating. I talked to pharmacists where this used to be the thing. They didn't have a kilo, and they had to make the tax solution. So you had to get the pure cocaine powder to put on the scale, right, and weigh it out. And they said it was an interesting time in pharmacy.
Yeah, that had to be a fun job, right?
Sounds fun.
You know, I've had the pleasure. It's possible.
So Coca-Cola de-cocas all of its coca extract, de-cocaines, and uses the rest in its recipe still today. And that extract is also now finding its way into health and wellness products and all sorts of stuff.
Did old Coca-Cola back in the day? When I say back in the day, I would
Yeah, I know.
say about 6 years ago.
1900,
Would you get high by drinking that and taking an aspirin? It was like an urban myth, except I wasn't urban, so it was just a myth, I guess. I don't know. Did you ever hear that? Because I never tried it, but I always wished I'd had. I'd like to think there wasn't a stone I could have turned over with an aspirin.
I don't know where that came from. I'd have to go reading.
Yeah.
You
Well,
kind of heard aspirin's a bit of a miracle drug, right? Like you put an aspirin in your Christmas tree pot, and then your plan will do good. Or you take an aspirin if you get chest pain. Take an aspirin if you're bleeding. Or there's a lot of things that aspirin has.
Thin your blood with aspirin.
Yeah. So, but a lot of that stuff is probably rooted in some degree of real world experience, and like there's probably some truth to it, but I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah. Well, I believe Son of Khan got away under the water too. He held his breath because my mom told me that when I was 6. I'm just saying I believe what I want to believe to get by sometimes. So I'm okay with finding out that no, an aspirin and Coke never would have worked because I didn't miss anything. I'm looking for exactly that answer.
Yeah. Oh, thank God I can finally sleep again.
Yeah, really. I didn't miss it when I had the chance,
One of the more deadly and harmful combinations of drugs that's not frequently talked about is cocaine and alcohol, which is a common combination.
Really?
Right. But it turns out that as alcohol is metabolized, there's the byproduct known as ethylene. And coca's metabolite can interact with ethylene to make coke-ethylene. And this is a highly cardiotoxic metabolite that puts stress and strain on the heart, which would then explain a lot of issues we've seen over the years, right? With individuals who have developed that problem. Because these are really common co-occurring substances.
That was the 80s, though.
The whole time.
The whole time, the entire time.
Yeah, I was in Fort Lauderdale from 78 till 81, maybe 78.
The heydays.
Oh, yeah. It was sort of like if you wanted just to attract somebody, you didn't have to do anything more than go just walking in, Oh, hi. Oh, how are you? It was
Is that how you picked up women back then?
No, it just was a byproduct of what I would be doing anyway, Yeah, I would tend to do that, but it would also be like you turn one of them black ashtrays upside down and cut it up on the back of that and snort it. And there'd be like the booths where you got your own little big horseshoe thing, and you can't.
You're saying people were doing blow right there on the open.
Yeah.
In the bars, yeah.
It
was just part of the bar scene.
Yeah, it was, and I had a pretty healthy heart, but I might have even had AFib back then because I've had the AFib chest pain since I was 23, and I'm thinking, holy crap, maybe I dodged a bullet by this much.
I remember when.
Yeah, like you could have.
I used cocaine probably for a good 10 years. In the 80s, a little bit in the 70s. I remember the first time I tried cocaine. It was called Peruvian flake, and I remember my ex-brother-in-law said to me, "You'll never see this again." It was pink coke, and so I did it, and my knees buckled, and I was like, "Holy shit, that was fucking awesome!" It was it was fucking awesome.
I wasn't sure which way she
Really
was going with it, good or bad.
Yeah,
was a good
karaoke.
Now there's something on the street called pink cocaine, but it's not cocaine at all. It's a
Man,
Himalayan salt.
I'm gonna have to replay this and take notes. Actually, no, seriously, I have interest in rewatching it because I don't have to really remember things hard and absorb now.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the internet for sure.
Yeah, well, that's one benefit. I don't have to know how it works. I just have to know how to use it.
Yeah, it's certainly not all good. I think we can agree on that. There are some highlights.
Oh, some. Yeah. Open up a window to a whole ugly world I didn't know existed.
True. Many ugly worlds you probably still don't know exist.
I'm trying to keep it that way.
Hit me, Lefty. What you got, dog?
Yeah. Well, okay. What happened, Lefty? You showed a video of that woman getting shot by a police interaction on Tuesday at the end. Did you notice I had my headphones off and I wasn't watching like some stubborn old man? I told you, no, I'm not going to watch it. No, there it is.
That was brutal.
Like a monkey, like an ape in a
I didn't
zoo.
see the video, but I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't need to see it to know how I feel about it. I don't need to get that charged up about something I can do nothing about or will be doing nothing about because I'm busy elsewhere.
As long as the system is addressing it as it needs to be addressed.
But I don't object to it being played, but I also have the mute button real by. I don't like certain animal welfare commercials in the middle of my viewing freaking pleasure, and I hit the mute button and I look away because I know and I can't do anything about it. So yeah, I do that. I put on the blinders.
I don't have that video up, but I did go to Reach New Jersey. ReachNewJersey.com has links to cannabis, and it's all bad. It's all like gateway drug stuff. Now, wait a minute. New Jersey has opioid
use disorder, and that's an indication into our program that says marijuana is medicine.
And you go to Reach New Jersey, it's like cannabis is demonized. Like, make up your mind. What do you?
Well, let's take them on, dude. You got a lot of things to do, but you can lighten up your load elsewhere, and let's go beat them down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of getting a permit for a rat. Come on.
Come on. I slipped that one to you over.
There's a story about the rat permit. We can talk.
I was like, I don't think you need a permit to have a rat in the tri-state area. I'm pretty sure everybody's
10-footer, 10-foot rat.
They live in a different area of.
I missed. I saw the rat right when I came on. That was like what was on the background. The big rat.
Yeah, it was a huge rat. We just bought one, and we're gonna protest with it.
Well, and Sue and I give honest opinions on what we listen to what he's doing, and try to mitigate some things along the way, early on, so we don't get started down a path we might want to back up.
Well, there's a police station without wheelchair access.
It was a very good talk we had earlier. It was constructive.
Yeah, well, there's a police station without wheelchair access, and we've set up a wheelchair ramp and used this ramp at the police station. What I want to do now is protest this police station with a 10-foot inflatable rat, but I want to ask permission first.
Let's ask permission.
Set up the ramp.
Right there.
Go in there to set up the ramp to ask him this question, and then set the rat up. So
you think they're going to say no?
No, it doesn't matter.
Then why?
Because then he's gonna ask permission, and then he's gonna exercise his First Amendment rights
with the 10-foot rat.
Yeah, the right.
So you're gonna ask permission and do it anyway.
Yes, because it's on wheels, so they can't stop me because it's actually on wheels, and I'll be moving, so they can't do anything.
I want to see the dry run.
Did they pull you over for driving a rat while stoned?
Well, no, I have a wheelchair, so I'll be using my wheelchair, dragging it with my wheelchair.
Well, how do you transport it? Do you transport it and it inflates somewhere?
He's got a compressor.
I have a compressor and a battery. And a battery, so I'm all set.
Yeah. So Yeah. See, the thing is, I see some comic value in while
Oh, it's a
spreading
shit show.
information.
Absolute shit show, Jim.
Yeah, yeah. But I still want to mull it over because I'll be honest with you, I had reason to get pretty high earlier in the day. It was like a nice acquisition and a good time with Andrea and Paco, and we sat on the porch for like 2 hours, So I come with a pleasant handicap tonight. I'm mostly a listener, and um, yeah. But the rat thing, I really want to see it in the real thing, and you need to do a test run somewhere not there, not really necessarily in town. You
Yeah,
have
make
to
sure the
mimic.
rat's not gonna
But
like
Yeah,
blow
I
up.
have to drive it. I have to put it on the
Okay.
wheelchair and drive
Yeah.
it somewhere. So I don't want to protest nothing. I got to protest
Hmm.
somewhere because people think I'm protesting them. I'm not
No,
protesting.
You,
bro.
but
You
you,
need
but,
a
my rat around.
pre-protest dry run.
yeah,
You need a dry run.
You do. Like you don't have a backyard. If you're a neighbor and say, "Hey, listen, see if you can wheel a sucker around the backyard or something like that."
Yeah,
Just-
like mock it up.
Oh,
Just like,
I
draw a
know
diagram
when you
of where
blow it
the
up.
rat needs to move around the
You could
police
drive
station.
it around Bayonne. You go when you go doing your rounds around Bayonne. Just
Go to a
take the rat
park.
with
Make sure
you,
your wheels are greased, like
Yeah.
just like
right? Bring the rat to
Go to a public
crosswalks.
park. Yeah, a public park. Try
I
that.
just
All
keep
right.
leaning into the microphone hoping I sound more like you.
Oh my God!
Oh man, you got to come in
Don't
studio. Come to
encourage
New
him.
Jersey.
New
Come in our
Jersey. I
studio.
was just in Atlantic City. I was just there.
We missed you.
Yeah, it's not really close to anything actually.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's not.
No.
It's actually absurdly in the middle of nowhere.
It is.
It's yucky. It has to be in the middle of nowhere.
I'll be honest though, I thought I was in Vegas more than once. In fact, somebody asked me I was in New Jersey like 2 months ago. But somebody asked me like a week ago. They're like, "Oh, where was that conference?" And I was like, "Oh, Vegas." No, it was Atlantic City.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, well, early on, Lefty also did some what he called the INE, ignorance is no excuse tour, and when it became legal for patients where you can and can't use it, not only did he go to half the police stations and half the municipalities in the entire state by now, saying, "Well, I'm a patient, I'm going to use it, where can I use it, where you won't arrest me," making sure they know the rules. Way early on, I went with an INE tour of some of the casinos in Atlantic City, without being registered. If I were to come here, I'm a patient, I need to know. And they would bring out like personnel to discuss it as legitimate as they could. They didn't, and then, we'd end up like on a side entrance or something like that. And it was whatever. But what about if I had a room? And, just sort of broaching the subject. And it was kind of interesting. They didn't really ever dismiss it, because they're in the customer service business too. You don't dismiss anything too quick.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting doing that, because at one point I was winning some money on a slot machine while Lefty was like 20 feet away waiting for them to come out and have a talk. And I'm like, I'll play some slots and watch him get started. But it was always interesting, He's an enigma, that Lefty.
Well, our company, the Cannabis Enigma, right? That's it.
Really? There you go. Oh.
Yeah, the Canigma stands for Cannabis Enigma.
About that, what's going on here?
You have a website that people can reach you at?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to learn about cannabis and you want to download a portion of my brain, but I didn't respond to your message because I get a lot of them, you can just go read the Canigma. I'm the chief science officer there, and I review every article that gets published. Historically, that's meant a lot. Recently, it hasn't meant so many, but it's Canigma.com, CANNIGMA.com.
And Cody's all over LinkedIn.
Yeah, if you want to reach me, LinkedIn is the best place.
Yeah.
I'm not as good at on Instagram, but I am there at Cannabis Farm D. So the Canigma and then me on LinkedIn is probably where I would direct you if you're trying to chat. I'm really open to, educating, doing in person. What do I say? I'm a cannabis nerd with a pharmacology problem, but really
That's your intro.
It's a drug nerd. Yeah, that's my own phrase about myself. But I'm a drug nerd with a pharmacology problem because I just can't get enough of like how drugs work and why they work and why, like what does it feel like? All the things.
Oh my God. How could we have not crossed paths sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have now. We have 2 conferences coming up. You guys are talking about going to events or whatever. Maybe this is relevant. I'll be in Baltimore and DC on the 27th of September because ASA, Americans for Safe Access, the oldest cannabis access org, they're doing their lobby day, and their lobby day at DC is going to be on the 27th of September. And we are also doing that weekend is the reunion of my U Maryland class. So there's 450 people with a master's degree in weed coming back to Baltimore. That'll be fun. And then subsequent weeks, I think it is October 12th, I'm coming back to Baltimore and the Society of Cannabis Clinicians, which is one of the leading organizations.
That's a conference Nick and I are going to.
Perfect. I'm teaching about the ECS there.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, that's. In fact, I found it, and I said, "Oh, we should go to this." And then she came back and she said, "We could go for free if we do a poster presentation." I was like, "Okay, we can do that."
Yeah, we can do that. Are you Nick Pachette?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know all you people.
I know you do.
I know your friends.
Yeah, I know a guy.
I know a guy.
I know a few.
Yeah, I got a guy.
But yeah, thanks for your time tonight, guys. I should wrap it up. My poor wife. This was an insane day of meetings for me, and I think this is like my 3rd recorded event today. And so she's over in the corner trying to keep the dogs quiet and all still. So
tell her thank you.
Thank you, Cody, so much.
Yeah, for the time that you spent was very generous. And you made really good use of it. I mean, it was.
I learned a lot.
This was a very favorite show of mine right here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, this is the one when Lefty's trying to cajole people to get on the show. This is the kind of show he needs to show somebody right here.
Yeah.
Chop me up. Make me a clip.
Yeah. There you go.
Got it. Sizzle reel.
Yeah.
You're making me reels. I'll pay you.
Somehow, I'm sure we will be in touch. And, as far as me, I tried to make it easy for people to remember how to email me with a 6-letter character, what would have been my license plate, except it was way illegal and I didn't want to draw attention to pot for MS, POT for MS, because I've had MS and I've pot for MS. So my email is that, and people, let me write it down. You strike me as the kind of person who has what it takes to remember that. You know what I mean? But anyway, this is really nice. I got you have something that will be very useful for us at some point in New Jersey. And I'm in it for the long haul. It's not like we got something going on next month, and it could be a couple of years from now, in which case you'd have a couple of years more experience with how it's going, with what you can help us try to understand. And there's nobody top of Pete more than you that would be the perfect person to do this. I mean, I can't imagine that being the case. So I feel like we struck some gold here for getting some help.
Well, I'm all for leverage, right? I'm at a heavy bandwidth. Sue mentioned I do a lot of things, and I still work full-time overnights in an emergency level 1 trauma center. So I'm a busy human. Yeah. And so the more that you can position me and leverage, and I can just do what I'm good at, that's great. So if you're willing to do the footwork, I'm happy to do the talking.
I envision bringing, if it has to be brought up in a public way, that I would have time to take something you would have to say to present it. Who are you? And this is what I would like you to hear. I got nothing that's going to surpass what you have. So I would tailor what you would say and take.
You might have a little more grit than you're giving yourself credit for.
Well, I don't know. I can.
I do. You probably got more grit than me, buddy.
I got a little bit left.
Yeah, I can tell.
Jim's a legend.
Yeah. I
Thank
can
you
tell
so
you got
much, Cody.
that. I know.
Really.
Well, anyway, so I look forward to that. But this has been a really, really good time tonight.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, me too.
It's not every day. My consumption on a podcast is pretty rare too. So you guys got I'm going to call it a special treat. It's probably only the second or third time I've ever done that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, he's ready, Lefty. You just
Anyway,
upgraded, dude. You're trying to set up.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being on, and
You're the best, bro.
your time is needed in so many directions, and demands that you have in your life to spend the time with us is well appreciated.
Yeah, I had a good night. Like I said, this is like my Friday after work.
Yeah.
And this is my come down. This is perfect. And tomorrow, fun fact, if we're going to close out on a good note, we're driving to Sacramento for the California State Fair, which is, first of all, 3 years ago, it was the first state fair to ever have a cannabis competition. But this year, it's this first state fair to ever, ready for this, both allow sales and consumption on site. You can buy and smoke your own weed at the fair.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Look, everybody's got a little video phone. Take some video. Let us see that. You know?
Yeah, it's out there. Cal Canna Awards.
Yeah, well,
is the Instagram. Yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely share. But it's progress, right? Like when I'm over here, it's like, oh, how could you live in California? And I'm like, I don't know, man. There's something about it that I like. It feels like I have a little bit more control, or a little bit more freedom, or a little bit more something. Cost me more too. It feels like I got a few more bills.
Yeah, well,
A little bit.
We're right behind you. We're Jersey.
I know. It's the East Coast, New Jersey, New York isn't that different. No. All right, you guys. Appreciate you all.
Thank you,
Thank you
Cody.
for the kind
I know how to
words.
find you, so you'll be hearing from us more.
Put my
Okay,
app
thank
in
you
the-
again so much.
Thanks,
we'll
y'all.
cross paths. Yeah. See you later, Cody.
All right, be well, y'all. Bye.
I want to thank CMMNJ, CannaSense, UFCW, Local 152, JacksonStorms.com, Smokin' Monkey, Arlo Glass, OprahMachine.com, Mad Hatter Dispensary. We're here at the Mad Hatter Dispensary. SativaCross.org, where you can donate at any page on the SativaCross.org website. Our list begins with Cheryl, Sabina, Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan, Randy, Polly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Matt, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie, Jackie, Anthony, Jake, Armando, Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lulu, Becky, Lawanda, Chip, Paul, Lisa, Marcus, Gary, and Jeff Oakes.
All people that didn't have the time this is taking. All people that things could have happened sooner. Things are delayed for unnecessary reason, and it just creates a longer list. It's time. People got to start letting go of the rope in this tug of war. But yeah, that list is long.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, listen, man, this was a good one.
This is a great podcast. I'm gonna listen to this back myself.
I got to rewatch, to realize, and also, how I'm always looking for help from other states, exactly like Dr. Cody.
Oh, come on.
What he does to what our arsenal of correct information on things.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's if again the shortest thing for his time consumption is to be able for somebody to condense what he has to say, and then it's ready. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be a committee hearing. It can be on
Speaking of the committee, can I have something to say about that?
what's that?
Wait a minute, I dropped something. Hold on. Okay, I got it. Okay, sorry. It was something I couldn't like let my dog have.
Oh, okay.
Good. Okay, so talking about the board meetings, and I know you got to take a vote, but and I don't know how both of you feel about this, but like Tuesday night doesn't work for me, and I noticed that Wednesday it doesn't work for her either because she's working, and usually when I come on, it's only 2 people anyway.
Yep.
So maybe picking out a better night.
Well, we had it on Monday, and that was really no worse.
Yeah, it was the same thing, and everybody agreed Tuesday, and then still the same problem. We can't even get a quorum.
Well, we could try any other night, though. It's not like, I'll be good for any, and okay, I wouldn't be good for Sunday night. Would never be good for me.
Nah, we don't want to do something.
I'm just saying that's the one can't possibly happen.
How about a time change, like earlier in the day?
Could do that.
That works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's
we could do like a
fine.
420 podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
I wouldn't be bad at all. Could get it all over before dinner because I don't eat till 6:30.
So we have to vote on that, right?
Yeah, we'll bring it up.
Yeah, Lefty can. We could do that, or you could just say, we're going to try this and see how it works, and then we can vote on it if it works. We don't have to vote on whether we try.
Yeah, just to do a trial.
Yeah, yeah, because otherwise, how do we know what to vote on? This is our informational hearing, and we're smart enough. We're smart enough to know that we need to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll see how it works. We'll take that information, and we may have to do a second try at a different time to compare. But
I like that. Picking the 420 time too might attract more people.
Yeah. Well, it won't
probably
be
not, but it's worth a shot.
May I be blunt and obvious that we all know? Okay, it won't be worse.
That's right.
It's true. It's not going to be any worse. So
it's 3 of us.
Yeah. So we're the 3 wise people.
Yep.
We need more board members. We have to get more board members that are energized.
That are active.
Well, yeah, we do. Generally, you kind of hope something occurs, a natural transition as opposed to like, we're taking applications to be a board member. It'll
some kind of peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah, and then right now, to operate however we need to operate and keep the 501c3 status, we need to just do minimum stuff is all. But you could decide to do a podcast however and whenever you want. That has nothing real. There are board meetings, and having once a month is 3 times more than you need. You need to have 4 a year. You got to get together 4 times a year. I think.
Rather than once a week.
All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here by 10 o'clock because I'm locked in.
Go.
So here we go. We went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end. Against odds uncounted, they fell with their faces to the foe.
Love that part.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not worry them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun in the morning, we will
remember them.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
See ya.
Over and out.